You are now watching the Crazy 8 Monkeys.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy TA's here, and today I'm going to be doing a different type of video than the ones I usually do. I don't know how many people are like regular subscribers and people who can always watch. I usually do like reviews, somewhat reactions, and I've done rankings before. This is going to be a little bit different of a video. I want to start getting more into like video essays. This is not a video essay. I have nothing pre-prepared for this besides the topic I'm about to talk about. But if you read the title, then you know I'm going to be talking about Lelouch v. Britannia from Code Geass. In this video, I want to not try to overanalyze his character, kind of like give my take on what he stands for, comparing to like other similar characters from like the anime genre and outside the anime genre. So, yeah, let's get started. Born into a chaotic and hectic world, on the right side of it, maybe, probably. Not right side as in good, but right as in he was just on the winning side. Lelouch Britannia was, I think, maybe the 10th in line. He was the Prince of Britannia. He had a little sister, Nonly, and he had his mother, Marianne. But at some point in his life, around the age of 10, there was an assassination plot carried out on Marianne, the queen, and his sister Nonly was with her at the time. She ended up being paralyzed from the waist down. His sister did, and being blind from the trauma. His mother ended up dead. After this, his father exiled him to Area 11. This is Japan. Well, Japan, which is Area 11 at this time, because Britannia had conquered them, branded them as 11s, treated them horribly, and he sent Lelouch over there, where he would meet his best friend Suzaku. Yeah, I would give a little bit of a basis for like what would lead to, like, later on in the series, like his whole parallels with Suzaku, his whole relationship with Suzaku, their like little thing with Nonly. That's a whole, that part of his life was really influential in setting up who he would become later on in the series. So then, when the series starts, after like the little thing, it shows whenever Lelouch and Suzaku were younger. We see Lelouch is in high school now. He's a somewhat like normal high school student. Obviously, he's on the student council. Extremely smart. Doesn't seem extremely athletic, but not out of shape. Obviously, the ladies love him. And he's living a, albeit, regular life. Well, Lelouch also likes to take place in like chess games with nobles. I guess visit Area 11. He gets some satisfaction over, taking them down a peg because I think they're so high and mighty. Lelouch isn't really like that. It's despite the fact that he comes from the most noble bloodline in the world. He keeps that hidden. He changed his last name is now Lelouch, like Cruz. I think the same thing with his sister Nonly. But one day while he's doing one of these chess games against a noble, after they leave, him and his friend Olivia are on their way back to school, they witness a terrorist attack going on and see the truck that the terrorists were in at the time crash. In that truck was Colin and her brother. Colin, who, if you watch Code Geass, would go on to be a huge character, behind Suzaku, probably the best fighter when it comes to in the mechs with the Nightmare. She may be, if you take away Suzaku's amp with the you need to live Geass that Lelouch gave him, you could even make a case that Colin's a better mech fighter than him, in my opinion. But he decides that he's going to get involved in this. But we didn't know is at the time they were stealing poisonous gas. That's how the government put it out, is that the terrorists were stealing poisonous gas. During all the stuff that goes down with that, the poisonous gas tank gets opened. A bunch of Britannian soldiers are there. He meets Suzaku again, who's working for Britannia at this point. And what emerges from the big container they had was C2. Very iconic character of Green Herring. If you haven't watched Code Geass, I feel like you might have seen C2 at some point. But yeah, he found C2. Basically, I think the government shoots C2. I don't know if that was before or after, she gave him the Geass. I haven't watched episode 1 in a minute. My apologies. But at that point, she gives him the Geass, Lelouch. She is immortal, so she survives. And he uses the Geass instantly to force the soldiers to commit death upon themselves. And at that moment, he decides that he is going to start a revolution against Britannia, which is, his homeland, where his family's from, but the same family that wronged him and sent him away whenever his sister was paralyzed and his mother was left bleeding. So he decides that he's going to link up this rebel like terrorist group that Collins in. I don't think they were called the Black Lives at this point. I think they would become the Black Lives a little bit later in the series. But he links up with them, becomes their like leader, but like kind of like a behind the scenes type leader, just for the fact that he doesn't show his face. He does something very similar to like say what Light Yagami does or like Walter White does. They take on different personas, whereas Light becomes Kira, Walter becomes Heisenberg, Lelouch becomes Zero. And that's actually going to be a little touching point for later on in the video. But yeah, that's kind of like his basis on where he starts off. And like from the beginning, Lelouch's pitch is like a very cold, callous, and very meticulous character. And I won't sit here and lie, like he gets like a huge amount of progression over the story, because I feel like with the point where he was at in the story where it began, he already went through a lot of progression himself. And what we're seeing over the course of Code Geass is kind of like all his thoughts, his ideologies, and his life coming to fruition at the forefront. So it's like while you do see small, minute changes, Lelouch is a very like a static character. Characters are more like change the story around them instead of the story directly changing them. Because Lelouch, while he does get changed somewhat throughout the story, everything that happens from the moment he gets Geass purely is his doing. I mean, you can make cases for whatever Charles was playing. That was not Lelouch's doing, obviously. But Lelouch is the one that sets a lot of things in motion. He's the one that, spoiler alert, you might want to skip a minute ahead to get away from this. He's the one that accidentally used the Geass on Yuffie whenever she was running peace with the Japanese, which led to the whole, like, Area 11 massacre, which is also, in my opinion, one of the best, like, episodes in anime history. But yeah, and, like, you see him, and even though, like, he's kind of pitched as, like, cold, meticulous, and, like, a perfect planner at the beginning, you see throughout the series, his plans do go left. And then seeing him, like, trying to plan around his plans going left, and plan around the different deceits and betrayals that happen to him along the way, that's where a lot of cool, interesting mind games come in. And, like, it's, like, where he is a morally great character, the reason that I personally like Lelouch more than, say, like, I'm not sure if I would say, like, more than Walter White, but they're on the same level to me, genuinely. I like him more just for the fact that I feel like in Light and Walter's, like, character journeys, you see them grow, yes, and they have huge egos, and over the course of their journeys, they both take on different personas and give more of themselves to that persona and find themselves more in that persona than they ever found living their regular lives, which pushes them to keep going forward, keep succeeding, keep fueling their ambition. But overall, they mask it as noble goals. Light mask his goal, like, yeah, sorry about that little interruption. But yeah, you see them like mask their causes over like with like kind of like great meanings. They want something at the end of it. Light mask is like salvation. He's trying to save the human race, but in his greed and his ego, he dilutes himself into thinking that he needs to be the god of the new world, that he's the only one that can do this. Nobody else can make the decisions he's making, and if they did, they wouldn't make it as far as he did. He says to himself in his final like monologue after Matsuda shoots him, which is a great monologue, by the way. Even though the back half definitely gets a lot of hate, I do think his final episode is amazing. And not Lelouch, Walter, you see, he also like masks like what he's doing by saying that he's doing it for his family. He has cancer. He doesn't have much longer to live. He didn't make a lot of money throughout his life trying to support his family, which I feel like some people can relate to. So he decides that he wants to put his skills, which is being a chemist. He's a chemistry teacher.
Yeah, Mr.
to
White.
use, and he starts cooking meth.
Science.
And you see him change a lot and lose more of his humanity as the series goes on. But he still has that goal of saying, I want to make enough for my family. I want to make sure that they don't have to struggle after I'm gone. But it's not until like the series is like, I think, final episode, Felina, amazing episode, where he talks to Skylar and he admits it was never for the family. It was purely for him. And he did it because he liked it and he was good at it.
For the family.
And that's really kind of why Light did it, is because he had such a huge ego and thought so highly of himself that, like, once he used the Death Note once and saw what he could do and the good he could bring per se, it did bring some good, you could say. He got too lost in it, and different planning and mind games he got himself caught up in. He enjoyed the cat and mouse, he enjoyed winning, and it was all pure enjoyment just to fuel his ego. I feel on some level. That's not me trying to simplify his character, by the way. But I say all this to say I think Lelouch, to me, is better than Light and of a similar level to Walter. For the fact that he never dilutes himself with, like, falsehoods that he's not doing something bad. Like, but he's a pure believer in the fact that the ends justify the means. I feel like, like I said, Walter had to come to the realization that he wasn't doing it for everybody, he was doing it for himself. Light never had that revelation. He still thought he was doing it for everybody by the end of it, in a twisted way. Lelouch knows from the beginning, almost in a way, I feel like, that he's going to do horrible things. And his loved ones are going to look at him differently. The entire world's going to look at him differently. He'll no longer be seen as Lelouch Lamperouge, the, like, hard-working student, the honorable man. He'll be seen as Lelouch de Britannia, the demon, the king, the conqueror, the tyrant. But to him, he is solemnly resigned to that fate, because he knows that after his death, all of his loved ones will live a better life, due to the fact of, to him, the ends justify the means. And the means he goes throughout the series, some messed up decisions he makes because he has, not because he has to, because, like, it just fits into his plan. Some decisions he just has to make on the whim, and, like, they do affect him horribly. But he always has the goal. If he's doing it for Nonali, he wants to create a better world for her. And he succeeds in that goal. And I feel like that's why the ending of Code Geass is so, like, widely loved by many. It's because it's such a perfect send-off to a character like Lelouch, who, from the beginning, purely wanted to create a better world. And he didn't try and go through different ways as Suzaku did, try and go up and climb up through the system. He burnt the system down and recreated from square one, but with him as the antagonist. And once he's removed from the story, the protagonists are free to do as they wish and live their lives according to how they want. And that's all he ever wanted. So, before I get off of here, I want to conclude by saying Lelouch is one of my favorite main characters of all time. I mean, a lot. Like, I get so much enjoyment from him. I've watched Code Geass since I was a little kid. And I do think it's one of, like, the best anime, best shows, period. And I don't think that, like, Lelouch, he's not a character I'd say you could, like, personally relate to on a heavy level. But that's the point. You're not really supposed to be able to relate to him because nobody in the cast can truly relate to him. He's an entity all of his own, and seeing his journey and his ending is just such a bittersweet experience, but one I feel like most people should go through and watch because it's that great of a series. So I give a heavy recommendation to Code Geass. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Something a little bit different. I promise next time I do a video like this, I'm going to prepare more and write it out. I just kind of want to freestyle and spitball and see what y'all thought. So yeah, it's been your boy T-Ace. We're the Crazy Eights. Peace out. Like and subscribe.